So the point of this meeting is actually to go over the 3 things we think you can do pretty much right away to add value to your new construction client relationships. This is not going to be a meeting about the 3 things you do to implement Knowify when you start. We will do a webinar like that in January, which is about sort of how to get going with the new construction client with Knowify. And that's actually a different set of topics. What we're really going to focus on today are the little things you can do as a business advisor, and these are things that we've learned about from our many conversations with pro advisors who have implemented Knowify, from our own direct work as on the customer service side, working with new construction clients. So the things that you can do to really make them feel your value right away. Okay. All right, so my name is Dan. I'm one of the co-founders here at Knowify. I run the operational side of the business. I think I've met certainly a bunch of you, either at Scaling New Heights or QuickBooks Connect or elsewhere around the country. So what's the point of today's meeting? We want it to be that you can go into a new construction client's office and do 2 things. 1, ask the right questions. You know, the questions that are going to give you insights into how they run their business in a way that can hopefully guide you towards the things that you can do to improve their processes and hopefully make them more successful. So the things that you can do that will deliver value right away, and that's the second topic. So how can you as an advisor go in there and do things for them that will make them think, wow, I absolutely made the right decision asking this person to come into my business today. Now, of course, a little disclaimer, there are no 2 clients that are exactly the same. Obviously, all of these ideas will not apply to every single client you go to. However, we have found that these ideas are broadly applicable. And even if not every client can benefit from them, we do think that the 3 ideas we're going to cover today really are things that can deliver value right away. And so you should at least have them in your quiver as you go into a new client relationship. Oh, sorry, let me quickly mute the other. Okay, so another quick note. This is a presentation that sees you guys as advisors, not as bookkeepers or accountants. We're not strictly talking about numbers here or about making sense of business data. What we're actually going to spend most of our time talking about are things within the business around basic business process and even presentation that you can give advice on and be a business advisor. And actually, this is a great thing for you. Because the more involved you get beyond just the books, the deeper the relationship, the more durable the relationship, and actually the better for the value pricing that I know Joe Woodard and so many others are telling you that you really should look into as the next step if you're not already doing it in the evolution of your practice. Okay, so what are the 3 things? 1, we're going to start with professionalism, and this is a really important topic for us here at Knowify. In part because a lot of sort of like the beating heart of our application revolves around things like contract management, change order management, and a lot of that's actually about putting the right foot forward, impressing your clients with your professionalism and your organization. So we're going to talk about professionalism in actually quite some depth today. 2, we're going to talk about automation of basic processes. Now, this is probably the one that you expected, but we have some very particular processes that we've found that if you can deliver automation on, people are going to appreciate that almost immediately as you get started in that relationship. And then the 3rd thing we're going to talk about is job costing. So this is actually one that is almost universally applicable because almost every contractor we talk to has some nagging interest or need for better job costing or more real-time job costing. And some even come to us or come to our pro advisor partners not knowing how much money they're making on their jobs, which is a terrifying prospect if you think about it, given the nature of the contracting business. So there's a lot that you can do around job costing to deliver value, and we will talk about that as well. All right, so let's talk about professionalism. This is sort of a fun one. So what are the key concepts here? So remember, and this is actually going to be a lot like your own business because frankly, you know, in the professional services space, there's a lot of word of mouth as well. But contracting really is a word of mouth business, especially on the residential side. And what you need to do as a contractor to succeed long term again, particularly on the residential side, is you have to look like a serious business that people can trust to invite into their homes to do work. Now, it's actually a pretty big ask if you think about it, because, you know, for almost everyone, their house is their biggest, most important asset. So trusting someone to come in and do major work is a big, you know, it's a big step. So the more professional you can look, the more likely people are to not only enjoy their experience with you, but also recommend you to their friends. 2, and this is also sort of a general marketing concept, but punch above your weight. So even if your contracting clients are small, you shouldn't be afraid to recommend that they undertake some very, very basic things that they can do to look bigger than they are, to act bigger than they are, in a way that will actually really drive increased sort of perception of their professionalism and reap rewards and dividends for their businesses down the road. So what kind of things are we talking about? The questions we ask, or at least that, you know, that we think ought to be asked, are things like, what email do you use to communicate with your clients? And what you're really looking for here is, are they using something like a Gmail, a Yahoo, a Hotmail? Because right away, that's sort of a yellow flag. I'm not saying it's the end of the world, obviously, but it's always better, almost always better, to have an email coming out of your own domain, because it makes you look like a bigger company. 2, do you have a website? Because frankly, in this day and age, if you're, particularly on the residential side, if you're a residential contractor and you don't have a website that looks clean and professional with some samples of your work, people aren't going to trust you. 3, do you have a logo? I mean, it sounds funny, but you know, logos are very, very, very cheap to get an excellent quality logo. And if you do have one, you look better than the guys who just have their names at the top of the letterhead. And 4, you should ask, can I see copies of the most recent bids and change orders you sent out? There are 2 big things we want you to look for here. One, actually, I'm going to start with the more important one, is were they signed? I mean, this is not only a professionalism issue, this is a process issue, because if they can't prove that those things were signed, particularly on the change order side, you're begging for legal problems down the road. You can only really bill for what you can prove was approved. So you as advisors need to go in there and you need to make sure that as part of their business processes, if they're issuing change orders, they're getting them signed. And the second thing you should look for on these bids and change orders is, did the forms you're looking at make you excited to work with those businesses? I mean, imagine yourself as a homeowner, you get a bid, it's either an old school QuickBooks desktop estimate, or it's a really clean, sort of snazzy looking modern PDF, maybe with some Angie's List, you know, 5-star or Better Business Bureau A+ rating stuff at the bottom, that looks like it's, you know, put together to have this business put its best foot forward. All else equal, I think we all would agree that the latter proposal is more likely to catch your eye than the former. Okay, so on the email website side, you guys can usually just approach them about changing this on their behalf very quickly, and it doesn't require that you be super tech savvy. You can register a reasonable domain, you know, sort of based on their business name. It's something like a GoDaddy. Usually for less, the registration is often less than $30 a year. You can sign up for an email host, which is going to be less than $5 a month. And suddenly, right off the bat, for less than $100 a year, they have their own email coming out of their own domain, and they look bigger. And also, if their website is lousy, you can use something like a Squarespace to get them a really, really nice looking website, really clean, with samples of their work that customers are going to go to and think, okay, yeah, this really looks like a serious business, right away for not a lot of money. It's a great, easy way to get a quick wow. So if you're looking at this, I would say a good place to start is registering an email on their own domain, or sorry, registering a domain, setting up an email rather, and setting up a clean website using one of the templating services like Squarespace. All right, logo. So this is actually this one I find particularly fun. If you find a customer with a bad logo, and you know what that is, you know, it's either they have no logo or they just have their name in Times New Roman at the top of their forms, or it looks like something they downloaded from the internet, or our favorite, we actually did see one once that was clearly made in MS Paint. And, you know, I mean, it's just not putting your best foot forward. If your client is interested in a new logo or logo refresh, there are actually some really cool sites you can check out. And the one that we recommend is logotournament.com. And it's actually an open competition for graphic artists around the world to win the $275 or $300 you post by submitting logos. But it's not just a one-time sort of, here are our ideas. It's actually an iterative process. So over 5 days, you rank the ones that you like the best, and they just keep iterating around the top performing designs until you arrive at one that you really like. It's actually a lot of fun for the client. And at the end, you get something that really is powerful as part of marketing their business. And for $275 to look better and look like a more established business because you have a great looking logo, it seems like a no-brainer. And take those logos and put them on top of your awesome looking proposals. And what you're seeing here in front of you are 3 actual Knowify proposals, each actually populated dynamically out of Knowify with live data. And you can see that these are actually, first of all, these are very varied. So we can totally customize templates in Knowify based on Word documents. It's actually one of the really cool things that we do. And you can see this is a much better foot forward with the customer than just a classic, QuickBooks Desktop estimate. And, add on top of this suddenly that you can send these out for electronic signature to your client, and suddenly you as a contractor look like you're really on top of your game. And, I think, so let me just wrap this very quickly by saying one of the first big wow moments we often get with customers on the customer service side of Knowify is when they send out their first proposal for e-signature and it comes back signed. And that makes them feel like, wow, I really feel like a modern business. And I understand all the time that I've just saved. And it's a great moment. And for you guys as advisors, you take that sort of technology to them. You show them how it can be customized to make them look better. And it's a quick win for you. And really, it's a great way to start a relationship. All right, so automation. We just talked about professionalism, which obviously is important for growing sales and things like that. Automation obviously is the the grease that gives you the flexibility to grow. Because if you don't have the right business processes in place, it's very, very hard to scale a business. And as we talk through this section, this is going to be perhaps a little bit more Knowify driven, but it can be applied across different industries with different technologies as well. All right, so what are the key concepts to automation? Obviously, things like, let's be faster, let's be more efficient. 2, things like, let's make sure that the people who need access to these data have access to it instantly. This is actually sort of a big one that people overlook. And that's because, especially in contracting, which is still very much a spreadsheet-dominated industry, what happens with spreadsheets is they get saved to local files, sometimes even into the cloud, into a Dropbox or something like that. But it's really not easy for other people on a team to see what's going on with the things that are being done on those spreadsheets. It just isn't. And if you use a system like Knowify, which has permissions built into it so that people who need to see data can see data, then it's all in one place. And a team can share the business information that it needs to have access to, and it can do so instantly. Then the last thing, let's do things in an integrated way. So that if we're talking about timekeeping solutions, let's make sure that those timekeeping solutions integrate with project management solutions and budgeting solutions so that I can see where I stand in my jobs in real time. And this is actually one of the core design philosophies of Knowify. Let's bring data together in a way that provides real-time insights. Okay, so automation on the bid change order side. We've already talked about this on the professionalism side, but it actually applies a lot on automation as well because, especially on the change order side, knowing which change orders have been signed, knowing which ones you can bill for, it's a major, major time sink. And if you can actually automate that with e-signature processes and simple workflows out of Knowify, quick, easy, awesome win. And just as an FYI, we just recently launched an even lower priced entry tier point for Knowify in the sort of $40 price range for customers who just really want to use us for the contract management, change order management, and things like basic AIA billing. So if that's all your customer wants, is just use the automation and powerful templating tools on bids, change orders, and some of our, for example, AIA billing tools on the invoicing side. We have a package just for that sort of skips all the job costing if they don't want it, and lets them get going. At least get started there. It's a great way to get started. Okay, so here's, so we talked about this at the beginning. On the change order side, the fact that you'll be formalizing their change order process and making sure that things are signed. This is a process change that, any serious contractor after using it for a couple months will start to recognize the importance of it from a business process and even legal standpoint. So it's the sort of change that helps them not only look more organized, be more efficient, but also avoid, certain legal risks in the long run. So it's a great change. So timekeeping, implementing a mobile timekeeping solution that's appropriate for the company is a great thing to do with contractors that have their own labor. Now, obviously not all contractors do, so this is not universally applicable, but mobile timekeeping is something that contractors in many cases really like because, keeping track of time and entering, paper time cards manually from the office, and then, how often do you actually go through and do that? And by the time you do, you're sort of 5-6 days late on actually seeing the data that, all those time cards contain. So mobile timekeeping is a great thing that you can do. And we have our own integrated mobile timekeeping. I would tell you, if you want to implement Knowify, absolutely plan on using a Knowify mobile app because obviously the integrated experience is very powerful. There are some others. So if you have small clients that are dispatch only, and you want to do dispatching and basic scheduling and some timekeeping, there's certainly apps we can recommend there. Or if there are clients who really just want a timekeeping solution by itself, I mean, I'm sure you guys are well aware that there are timekeeping solutions, standalone timekeeping solutions. But it's a good win, and certainly something you should look into if you're bringing on a new construction client. I will tease that in 2017, we've already begun this project very much in earnest. So we are going to be doing certified payroll, which means that we've gone through and we've gathered all the certified payroll forms from the 50 states, and we are trying to come up with a way to output dynamically into those forms as necessary so that Knowify can handle certified payroll for your clients that need it. All right, and so this is one that we put a star on at the top. But if you're working with a contractor that does AIA billing, I promise you this is a pain point for them. It's just, I don't think I've ever come across somebody who isn't using an automated AIA billing solution that doesn't think AIA billing is a nightmare. And if you come across a client that does AIA billing, I would tell you to show them Knowify for almost no other reason than AIA billing to start, because they'll see it and they'll say, wow, that's fantastic. Because it's such a time saver, and they so appreciate being able to just crank out their AIA recs that if you have a client that needs to produce invoices on this form set, this AIA form set, it's a fantastic place to start. So on the automation side, focus on bids and change orders first with things like, auto-generating proposals and e-signature. 2, mobile timekeeping is a big win. And 3, if they do it, AIA billing. In fact, if they do it, AIA billing often becomes the number 1 in that sequence. But if they do it, so automating AIA billing is a huge win. All right, so job costing. So, I mean, the obvious thing here is that contractors need to know how much money they're making by job. And the frightening thing is they often don't. And the reason they need this is because it's the only way to figure out what sorts of jobs are best for them to focus on. It's the only way to forecast what their P&L should look like based on their pipeline. And lastly, again, an overlooked thing, it's the only way for them to get better. If you're not doing your job costing properly, then how the heck do you ever improve as an estimator? In a lot of cases, especially in subcontracting, the money you make as a contractor is as much in the bidding process as it is in this sort of, in the management process as your foreman and supers run the crews efficiently. I mean, if you don't have insights on how much money you're making and why you're making it, then you have no way to improve your estimating processes and be more profitable as a company down the road. So there are many different ways to approach job costing. Obviously, this is not one for one size fits all. We in Knowify have multi-level job costing. So we have not only a very simple approach where you can track job costs at the level of the job, split between labor and materials and subcontractors, But we also have very detailed line item level budgeting where you can track labor, materials, subcontractors at a line item level for the job. Now, obviously, somewhere in the middle there, we capture a whole bunch of contractors who don't want to be quite as detailed as the line item budgeting, but also don't want to be quite as simple as, you know, everything tracked at the job level. This is actually a challenge for you guys to figure out how much data they really need to run their businesses better, but without creating a whole bunch of efficiency problems as they sort of have to then manage getting the time in against the right budget line item, getting the materials in against the right budget line item. So, you know, it obviously takes more work the more resolved you want to be in your budgeting, but for larger guys or guys doing repeatable work, it often does have a significant payout. All right, so the key questions in job costing. Ask them for a profit and loss report for their last few jobs. Just say, hey, can you print me out something? And if they can't, then this becomes, you know, the priority item. If they can, then look through it and see how resolved it is. And you know what? You can even be sort of sophisticated about it. And you can see number 3 here. Can I see your estimating workbook? And what you can do is you can actually compare their profit and loss report to their estimating workbook and see if you can make sense of their P&L report based on their estimating workbook in a way that would let the estimating get better over time. So say, based on what I'm seeing in my profit and loss report, can I compare it back to the estimating workbook and say, I think I see where you under budgeted, or I think I can see where you over budgeted, or something like that. And if you can, then their job costing may be resolved enough. If you can't, then that's an area for improvement, because you should really try to make sure that the outputs at the end, in terms of the job costing, match the inputs on the estimating side, because the two, you want it to be as comparable as possible. And on the number 2 item here, we said, do you do job budgeting ahead of time? Because in fact, a lot of contractors will just work off a price list. They know that, you know, painting a house, an exterior house of a certain size is $3,000. And if they charge $1,000, they're probably going to make money. That's maybe not the best way to do it, but, you know, in certain sides of the contracting industry where there are fewer surprises, you can get away with it. And knowing how they do it, and so you're not sort of forcing in a wild new process for them, which could very well fail. Actually, just make sure that you can keep what you need to keep on their process side, at least as best you can. So figuring out whether they're working off a price list on the sales side or if they're doing job budgeting is actually quite useful. All right, so implementing a job costing solution. You'll forgive me on this, we're actually going to punt. This is a huge question. This is a question that is worth its own webinar. We actually are going to make it into its own webinar. Because implementing a job costing solution, tailoring it to the business, trying to get out of it what you want to get out of it, and understanding the puts and takes there, it would take me another 30 minutes to go through it. And you know, we try to keep the webinars to 20 to 30 minutes, so that's not going to happen today. So we would love to have you join us when we run that webinar, either in late January or early February. And we are going to focus it solely on the question of job costing and how to tailor Knowify's job costing tools to your client's specific needs, because obviously they can vary quite a lot. All right, so here's the summary of the webinar. So we want you to be able to go into a new construction client and add value right away. You can do that, and you can actually get a lot of very quick bang for the buck, and you can really impress clients by making them look more established, more professional, because they'll appreciate that. 2, helping automate basic processes like bid change orders or timekeeping or AIA billing. And 3, by then diving into their job costing and really getting into the numbers and understanding how you can maybe improve their job costing and how you can give them insights on their performance and hope maybe even steer them a little bit towards more profitable work or the things that they do better. And by setting them up to prosper, you'll be setting yourself up to succeed in the relationship long term. So I think that's the end of our 3 big things to do when you walk into a new construction client webinar. I'm happy to open up to any questions. You know, I would ask, because it's sort of hard to unmute all the participants, if you could enter them.